Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. Here with me in the studio to dive into this critical discourse is Ndamzi Ekulo Esquire, conflict resolution expert. We're so glad to have you join us today.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
It's really, really trying times in River State just now. Well, let's go right into the reports. Tuesday, 18th March. Fellow Nigerians, I feel greatly disturbed at the turn we have come to regarding the political crisis in River State. Like many of you, I have watched with concern the developments with the hope that the parties involved would allow good sense to prevail at the soonest. But all that hope burned out without any solution to the crisis. With the crisis persisting, there is no way democratic governance, which we have fought and worked for over the years, can thrive in a way that will redound to the benefit of the good people of the state. The state has been at a standstill since the crisis started, with the good people of the state not able to have access to the dividends of democracy. Also, it is public knowledge that the governor of Rivers State, for unjustifiable reasons, demolished the House of Assembly of the state as far back as 13th December 2023 and has up till now, 14 months after, not rebuilt same. I have made personal interventions between the contending parties for a peaceful resolution of the crisis, but my efforts have been largely ignored by the parties to the crisis. I'm also aware that many well-meaning Nigerians, leaders of thought, and patriotic groups have also intervened at various times with the best of intentions to resolve the matter, but all their efforts were also to no avail. Still, I thank them. On February 28, 2025, the Supreme Court, in a judgment in respect of about 8 consolidated appeals concerning the political crisis in Rivers State based on several grave unconstitutional acts and disregard of rule of law that have been committed by the governor of Rivers State, has shown by the evidence before it pronounced in very clear terms. A government cannot be said to exist without one of the 3 arms that make up the government of the state under the 1999 Constitution as amended. In this case, the head of the executive arm of the government has chosen to collapse the legislature to enable him to govern without the legislature as a despot. As it is, there is no government in River State. The above pronouncement came after a catalogue of judicial findings of constitutional breaches against the governor, Siminalayi Fubara. Going forward in their judgment and having found and held that 27 members of the House who had allegedly defected are still valid members of the River State House of Assembly and cannot be prevented from participating in the proceedings of the House by the 8th respondent, that is, the governor, in cohorts with 4 members. The Supreme Court then made some orders to restore the state to immediate constitutional democracy. These orders include the immediate passing of an appropriation bill by the River State House of Assembly, which up till now has not been facilitated. Some militants had threatened fire and brimstone against their perceived enemy of the governor, who has up till now not disowned them. Apart from that, both the House and the governor have not been able to work together. Both of them do not realize that they are in office to work together for the peace and good governance of the state. The latest security reports made available to me show that between yesterday and today, there have been disturbing events of vandalization of pipelines by some militants without the governor taking any action to curtail them. I have, of course, given stern order to the security agencies to ensure safety of lives of the good people of River State and the oil pipelines. With all these and many more, no good and responsible president will stand by and allow the grave situation to continue without taking remedial steps prescribed by the Constitution to address the situation in the state, which no doubt requires extraordinary measures to restore good governance, peace, order, and security. In the circumstance, having soberly reflected on and evaluated the political situation in Rivers State, and the governor and deputy governor of Rivers State haven't failed to make a request to me as president to issue this proclamation as required by section 305 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it has become inevitably compelling for me to invoke the provision of section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State with effect from today, 18th March 2025, and so do. By this declaration, the governor of Rivers State, Mr. Seminala Yefubara, his deputy, Mrs. Ngozi Odu, and all elected members of the Rivers State House of Assembly are hereby suspended for an initial period of 6 months. In the meantime, I hereby nominate Vice Admiral Iboket Ibas, retired as administrator, to take charge of the affairs of the state in the interest of the good people of Rivers State. For the avoidance of doubts, this declaration does not affect the judicial arm of Rivers State, which shall continue to function in accordance with their constitutional mandate. The administrator will not make any new laws. He will, however, be free to formulate regulations as may be found necessary to do his job, but such regulation will need to be considered and approved by the Federal Executive Council and promulgated by the President for the state. This declaration has been published in the Federal Gazette, a copy of which has been forwarded to the National Assembly in accordance with the Constitution. It is my fervent hope that this inevitable intervention will help to restore peace and order in Rivers State by awakening all the contenders to the constitutional imperatives binding on all political players in Rivers State in particular and Nigeria as a whole. Long live a united, peaceful, secure and democratic Rivers State in particular and the Federal Republic of Nigeria as a whole. This was the press report by the President yesterday before a state of emergency was declared in Rivers State, and an administrator, Ibas, taking over. What are your thoughts on this report?
Thank you very much. We'll start by looking at the provisions of the law.
Okay.
Section 1 of the 1999 Constitution talks about the supremacy of the Constitution, and it says that this Constitution is supreme and is binding on all authorities and persons.
Okay.
That is to say, including the leaders and the led.
Okay.
Everybody are subject to the provisions of the 1999 Constitution. Nobody, no matter how highly placed, it's above the law. The president is within the law to declare a state of emergency in the interest of public order and safety and peace and security. The president has the right under Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution to declare state of emergency, but the president does not have the powers under that same section of the Constitution that allows him to declare state of emergency to suspend an elected sitting governor and also suspend an elected members of the House of Assembly. He does not possess that powers under Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Okay? So, also some have argued Section 11, which authorizes the National Assembly to make laws in the interest of public safety and order. Okay? The National Assembly in that regard can also do same. The law in Section 11 of the Constitution, it is not about who is involved here. What we are saying is the provisions of the 1999 Constitution and also what the courts have pronounced in such instances in the past.
Right. Now, from the press report, you see that the president did say, you mentioned the National House of Assembly being able to discharge the duty of the House of Assembly in case they are not capable of, carrying that act out. Now, the president did rightly say he reached out to the National Assembly. He sent them a letter as regards this action. Do you think it's possible that they actually mandated the governor's suspension as opposed to the president not following the Constitution?
No, the Constitution is framed in Section 305, subsection 2. It is clear that the president will send, that this promulgation, proclamation, will be gazetted in the Federal Government Gazette, and same will be transmitted to the both leadership of the National Assembly, the Senate, and the reps. Then the National Assembly will sit in the state of emergency or not.
Okay.
But I want to be very particular here that I don't think and I don't believe that we have a National Assembly which can look at Mr. President and say, Mr. President, at this instance, we don't think it is due for state of emergency. I don't think we have that National Assembly in Nigeria. So the proclamation of the president is the law, as enshrined in Section 305. But we want to reiterate again, for the interest of our listening viewers, that the president does not possess the powers to suspend an elected government in a state. Let us look at the case of AG, Plateau State, against Guni. In 2007, 16 Nigerian Weekly Law Report, part 1005, particularly in page 1. The Court of Appeal in that judgment said yes, that the president possessed the powers
Okay.
to suspend or remove a sitting governor. But in the current 1999 constitution as amended, the president of Nigeria does not possess the powers to suspend a sitting governor and also a House of Assembly that is elected by the people. The governor is elected by the people of Rivers State. The House of Assembly members are elected by constituents. So, suspending them, the president is invariably breaching the rights of Rivers people who elected their governor, who elected the House of Assembly. So, there is no provision where the Constitution empowers the president to appoint an administrator. Nowhere in Section 305. I beg to be challenged in every platform that the Constitution allows the president to suspend an elected governor who was elected same day with him. No, it's unlawful. So what we are trying to do is to call out this infraction so that we can have a proper way of doing things, a proper way of discharging our day-to-day activity. You cannot, be a champion of the rule of law and you don't do the rule of law. We are here in Rivers State. We have been asking the governor to do the rule of law. And we still stand on the governor to do the rule of law. Because without the rule of law, we will have anarchy. So if we are championing here, advocating here that the governor is not doing the rule of law, this is a time for the president to do the rule of law as the father of the nation.
Thank you so much. Now, as regards the bombing of pipelines, like the president said, according to the security briefing he has, do you think that is enough to have declared a state of emergency in Rivers State?
Like I posited before, the president is within the law.
Okay.
The president possesses the constitutional powers to declare state of emergency.
At what point should a state of emergency be
And
declared?
the reason of state of emergency is simple. In the interest of public order, safety, peace, and security of any part thereof in the country. Okay, the president has the powers to declare state of emergency. The reason for declaring state of emergency is to maintain law and order, restore law and order and peace. Then when everything is calm, he can approach the National Assembly that he wants to vacate the declaration. Then the governor and the elected officials at that point will continue its constitutionally empowered duties. But to suspend the governor, suspend the House of Assembly, which is the lawmaking body, it's unlawful, it's unconstitutional, and should in all sense we are calling out the president to review the declaration. We are not saying that he doesn't possess the powers to declare state of emergency in Rivers State. He does. It is his rights. If he thinks any part of Nigeria is under threat, any part of Nigeria is insecure, he can declare state of emergency. In 2013, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan declared state of emergency in 3 states in Nigeria, Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, particularly because there were brewing insecurity, terrorism, okay? But in the case of Rivers State, this is a political crisis which the president at some point intervened, but parties didn't, obey the intervention. So that is what led us to where we are today. We know what has happened all this while in Rivers State. The president possesses the power to declare, but he doesn't possess the power to suspend the governor in that declaration and suspend the elected House of Assembly members. The president has just overreached his powers. He has overused his powers. So we are calling on him, because the presidency possesses lots of powers in the constitution, but we are calling on him in the interest of peace and in the interest of the good people of Rivers State. We want the president to visit the constitution again and possibly do a proclamation to that effect, because the president we know in 2013, when President Goodluck Jonathan declared state of emergency in these 3 states, the president criticized that move and called Mr. President then out. So we are also calling him out to look at the provisions of the law in discharging his constitutional functions.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report. Amid the recent declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State by President Bola Tinubu, Governor Siminala Ifubara has called on citizens to remain peaceful and law-abiding while reaffirming his commitment to protecting lives, property, and democratic order. In a statewide address delivered in Port Harcourt on Tuesday, Ifubara expressed concern over the political turmoil, but assured residents that his administration had been guided by constitutional principles and a deep sense of duty since assuming office. Even in the face of this political impasse, we have remained committed to upholding constitutional order and the rule of law, always putting the interest of our people above all else, Fubara said. He emphasized that his government had taken steps to implement peace measures, including reintegrating previously resigned commissioners as part of an agreement brokered by President Tinubu. Furthermore, he noted his swift compliance with the Supreme Court's ruling aimed at restoring stability in the state. However, the governor lamented the continued obstruction by the Rivers State House of Assembly, which he accused of frustrating efforts towards genuine peace and governance. Despite these political disagreements, good governance has not been compromised. Salaries are being paid, key projects are ongoing, and our state remains secure under my leadership, he stated. We will continue to engage with relevant institutions to ensure democracy thrives in Rivers State, he affirmed. Earlier on Tuesday, President Tinubu declared a state of emergency in Rivers State, citing prolonged political instability. He appointed Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ekwe Ibas to oversee the administration of the state while suspending Governor Fubara, his deputy, and elected members of the State Assembly. Now, Governor Fubara has come up to say, by his books, he thinks he has done most of the things right as regards following the court order, obeying the president when he tried to broker peace by reinstating, recalling commissioners and all of that. Do you think at this point we should still stick to, the blame game of, I did right or the House of Assembly did wrong, or we should start looking for a way forward out of this issue?
Thank you very much. This is not a time for blame gaming. It's not a time to blame Fubara or a time to blame the Amewule-led assembly. It is a time to move Rivers State forward. In several forums, I have advised the state government to eschew bitterness and reach out to the assembly members. There should be proper channel of reaching out the assembly members. The letter writing in this instance, to me, in my opinion, is not necessary. Let the governor engage the speaker and the house. Let him engage them. Let there be a conversation. Don't forget, these are 2 different arms that have been in disarray. They convened and wrote a letter to the governor. That letter got to government house. That letter was not received. Instead, the messenger was turned back. That is the genesis of all this. See, truth be told, we need to look at a spade and call it a spade. If that letter had been received officially, the acknowledgement copy gotten, there is nothing wrong in you replying. The assembly said they gave ultimatum within 48 hours. The governor must represent his budget. It is a channel of opening communication. The governor's side is within their right to reply the assembly. We have received your letter dated so date, so day and time. Please, in the interest of this and this and this, we won't be able to submit as requested. We will be able to submit so time. These are channels of communication. So both parties in this regard didn't do it well. So what we are saying in this instance is, we are all Rivers indigents. We want peace in Rivers State. This fight has been prolonged. We saw the party that won. And in that winning, Rivers State won. Because it brought about bringing back our legislature. So Rivers State won. As far as I'm concerned, Rivers State won in that judgment. No party won. We want our state to move forward on developmental projects. We want to hear government issuing scholarships to the less privileged children. We no more hear about scholarship. We no more hear about smaller grant to farmers and all that. What we hear every day on news is political crisis. So you see, that is the area that made the president come in to declare state of emergency, because I think, in my own view, I think the president is pained himself. He's pained. That is a matter he intervened in, and parties didn't obey the intervention.
Now, from this report, you find out that, do you think this political crisis is enough reason also to call for a state of emergency?
Yes, but considering what has happened so far, we hear about people blowing up to say these are the guilty ones. At this point, we don't know who blew up the pipeline. I am not privy to that fact. But what we know is that some hoodlums are out there blowing up government pipelines. Okay? The governor has the powers under the Constitution to make sure that law and order is obeyed here. In the event where it is above him, he, in conjunction with the House of Assembly, with a proclamation by 2/3 majority of the House, invites the president to declare state of emergency in his state. But since that was not done, you can see the president invoked his powers in section 305, sub 5.
Well, do you think he was given enough time to even do all of this, though? Since the bombing and the blowing up of the pipelines did happen yesterday, and this declaration did come yesterday at the same time. They were just a few hours away from each other.
Like I said, I am not the spokesman to the president, right? Okay? But the president is within his powers in the Constitution to declare a state of emergency. Right. But my own grounds on that declaration is on the suspension of the governor and the House of Assembly members. The Constitution never empowered the president to do that. Okay? So, Rivers State, at this point, Rivers State in perspective, we want peace. We want the resolution of this matter as quickly as possible so that normalcy and order can return in the state. This shouldn't be a time for blaming any party. It is a time for conflict resolution. This is a time also I will advise the state government to reach out to the assembly members. Now that the government is out on a halt, let the state government, let the governor now, let him eschew bitterness, let him eschew pride, anger. He should reach out to Martins, Amehule and co. and resolve this matter. There is nothing wrong in sitting together looking at what is on the table, plate all the cards on the table, look at who gets what and how and when. I think that is the problem in the state. If that is properly sorted out,
right,
we will have peace in the state.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report. Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, has strongly opposed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State and his suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, and members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. The NBA, in a statement released on March 18, 2025 by its president, Mazi Afam Osigwe San, emphasized that the president lacks constitutional power to unilaterally remove elected officials under the guise of emergency rule. President Tinubu, in his national address, cited rising political tensions and recent acts of pipeline vandalism as justification for the emergency declaration. However, the NBA argues that such actions, while concerning, do not meet the constitutional threshold for suspending an elected government. The NBA pointed to Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution, which governs the procedure for declaring a state of emergency. While this section grants the president emergency powers, it does not allow for the removal or suspension of elected officials. The NBA stressed that the only constitutional method for removing a governor or deputy governor is through impeachment, as outlined in Section 188. Furthermore, the removal of lawmakers must adhere to electoral laws and constitutional provisions. The NBA insisted that a state of emergency does not equate to an automatic dissolution of an elected government, and any attempt to do so is an overreach of executive power. The NBA also highlighted that Tinubu's emergency declaration requires approval from the National Assembly within 2 days if in session, or 10 days if not. Until such approval is granted, the declaration remains legally ineffective. Condemning the move as a dangerous affront to democracy, the NBA warned that allowing the suspension of elected officials under emergency rule could set a precedent for removing state governments based on political considerations. It urged the National Assembly to reject any attempt to ratify the unconstitutional suspension of Rivers State officials. The NBA called on all stakeholders, including the judiciary, civil society, and international observers, to monitor the situation closely. It reaffirmed its commitment to upholding Nigeria's democracy and urged the federal government to resolve political conflicts through constitutional and legal mechanisms, not executive orders. The association concluded by insisting that Nigeria's democracy must be protected at all costs, warning that any unconstitutional interference in state governance threatens the nation's democratic stability. Do you think, in line with everything we've been talking about as regards the state of emergency and the thought of, this press release by the NBA, and the fact that he didn't mention how this could create a precedent for other state governors who can equally be removed, due to political misunderstandings? Or what are your thoughts on this report?
Yes. You see, precedents are what the court follows to deliver its judgment. Like we cited earlier on the case of AG Plateau State against Gunin. Our government not to set a dangerous precedent, because if this illegality, this constitutional infraction is allowed to stand, it becomes a dangerous precedent. Tomorrow, a president who understands the means and use of power can come in and just wake up one day, declare a state of a president, is unknown by the laws of Federal Republic of Nigeria. You cannot find it in the Constitution. You cannot find it in any act whatsoever that empowers the president to remove an elected governor. If that can be done, you are invariably saying the governor also have the powers, have the rights to remove an elected local government chairman. So, and has binding force on the president, the vice president, the senate president, the speaker, everybody, the governors, the House of Assembly members, reps members, senate, and we that they are leading. They have to lead us well, in line with the provisions of the Constitution. And I want to also say it here categorically that that declaration is not only unconstitutional and illegal, it is an infraction on the rights of the Rivers people.
The president does think that he was doing it for, for the sake of the Rivers people, for the benefit of the Rivers people, as it were.
That's why I said his body language may speak a different thing. He has good intentions to maintain law and order in Rivers State, but his powers, he overreached the use of his powers by adding the suspension of the governor and adding the suspension of elected officials. That is unconstitutional, illegal, and also an abuse of the rights of millions of Rivers people.
Thank you so much. We go on a short break. When we get back, we'll continue with the rest of our reports. Please stay with us. Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. Rivers State House of Assembly has endorsed President Bola Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in the state. This was contained in a statement issued on Tuesday by the Speaker of the House, Martin Amewule. Amewule said the Assembly would abide by the President's decision even though it was not what they had hoped for. We assure our constituents that we will abide by this declaration even though it is not what we prayed for. Mr. President has acted in the best interest of the country, Amewule said. The Speaker blamed Governor Siminalayi Fubara for the crisis in Rivers State, accusing him of ignoring court judgments and failing to govern in line with the Constitution. The condition of our dear Rivers State today is mainly because of the malfeasance of the governor, who serially disobeyed court judgment and obstructed the Rivers State House of Assembly, he stated. Amewule called on residents to remain calm and cooperate with the sole administrator appointed by the President to oversee the affairs of the state. We urge everyone to remain calm as the sole administrator assumes duty. Rest assured that the Assembly will give him all necessary support to restore order, he added. The Speaker also thanked the people of the state for their patience, prayers and support during this period of emergency. On Tuesday, Tinubu declared a state of emergency in Rivers State and suspended Fubara, his deputy, Ngozi Odu, and all elected members of the State House of Assembly for 6 months. He said the decision was taken to restore stability in the state that has been witnessing political turmoil as a result of the disagreement between the state governor and the state's lawmakers. Following his declaration, the president appointed the former chief of naval staff, Admiral Iboket Ibas, as an administrator for Rivers State. Now, before we went on the break, we did say that it is not constitutionally in the president's powers to suspend elected House of Assembly members and the governor. Well, here we are, the House of Assembly coming to say, okay, we solely absolve what we've been given by the president. What are your thoughts when you think about that in this report?
I am very, very surprised to see that the Assembly ordinarily is backing the declaration of state of emergency, because that declaration also has stalled their own constitutional duties, their own constitutional responsibilities, owed their constituents. I am a constituent. You see, that declaration now will suspend lawmaking process, which ordinarily it is the right of constituents in this state. So, supporting that call, to me, is very, very surprising. I wouldn't know the reason why they are supporting the call while it's a constitutional infraction on them. So I am surprised as you are. You know, on the last discourse, we x-rayed the powers of the president to do that.
Right.
And we came to a conclusion looking at the various positions of the law and the judicial precedent posited here that the president lacked that powers to suspend the assembly and the governor. Okay, the president lacked that power. So the assembly backing the president declaration, to me, is very, very constitutional, very, very surprising, and it's very, very unconstitutional in my view, because there is nowhere in our constitution that the law says when a president makes such declaration of state of emergency that it will be backed by the assembly, though the assembly members are within their rights for right of free speech. Anybody can say whatever he or she likes,
right,
so long as you are not making a derogatory statement that could be used against you as either libelous or anyone saying you have infringed on their rights and ask for damages against you. So they are within their rights to make whatever comment, give whatever speech. But in my own interest, is peace in Rivers State, development, because without peace, we will have a sluggish development in the state. So the lackluster attitude of both the executive and the legislature at this point should be dropped aside. Let both parties come together and resolve these issues so that Mr. President wouldn't move forward with the state of emergency.
Now, they did mention that they intend to support, you know, the sole administrator appointed by the president, Admiral Libas. They intend to support him, going forward with whatever he needs to move with the motion that the president, has given him. You rightly said in our previous discourse as regards why the president did not even have in his powers, as it were, to elect a sole administrator. Now, they didn't just declare the fact that they agree with the declaration of the president. I suppose also, like the NBA said, he cannot even remove them, right, from office because they're elected. But now, they equally are willing and eager to assist the sole administrator, who was brought in by the president to, man the affairs of the states. What are your thoughts in that regard?
Yes. You see, this whole thing, it's all about interest. It's all about where their interest lies politically. And going by what has happened the last 2 years, we know where the interest of the governor lies, and we know where the interest of the assembly members lies. These are two opposing interests fighting a particular cause. Okay, and these people have been in loggerheads for over 2 years, or if not more than. Now, a court has given its final judgment in a form of direction for the governor to do certain things as directed, as ruled in that judgment. The assembly, in its wisdom, like I keep maintaining it, in its wisdom said, okay, submit 2025 budget. The same budget you gave to the illegal assembly. Bring it, we are ready to hear you. I posited before, if I were the president, I will do a reply to that letter.
The governor.
If I were the governor, sorry, I will do a reply to that letter stating the reasons why the Rivers State government wouldn't meet up within 48 hours and advising on when will be convenient. At that instance, I don't think all this drama and where we are today will be here. It's just a question of ego. People felt, oh, my ego was bruised, I will not do this. No, I think when it comes to governance, you will need to drop ego. You will need to drop who you are.
Right.
You will need to drop ill character. You just need to look at what the law says and do the rule of law. If you cannot do the rule of law, you shouldn't come close to the corridors of power.
Now, you talked about interest. Shouldn't this whole interest be about the benefits of Rivers State and Rivers people, as opposed to everybody having personal interest? Now, with this declaration by, the House of Assembly, it's obvious that they are not going to try to look for a way to get the governor to change his mind, right, on this declaration of state of emergency and their suspension for a whole six months. Looking at this and looking at where we are, looking at the Constitution, like you rightly mentioned, and like as the NBA has rightly said, this is not constitutional. It's not in his rights. Do you think any progress will be made from this, in the coming days as regards someone, maybe possibly a case challenging this judgment or this proclamation by the president?
Okay, if I'm in a position to advise the Rivers State government and also advise the elected House of Assembly members that are affected in this regard, I will advise them to seek the interpretation of Section 305 by way of approaching the Supreme Court, which has the jurisdiction in this matter. Supreme Court to interpret Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution. Supreme Court should also interpret Section 305 sub 5 in particular, whether in any way the president has the powers to suspend the governor and the elected officials. That is just the best way, because at this point, that declaration have come,
right,
and the Gazette have been transmitted to the hallowed chambers Okay, the processes are on. So it behoves on the hallowed chamber now to authenticate the declaration of the state of emergency. If the hallowed chamber does that, it stands. Then the only option open to the governor and the assembly members, if they so do wish.
The assembly members have already
yes,
said
it's obvious from what the assembly is doing now, they are not interested. So, but the governor still has the right. He can approach the Supreme Court because it's a question of state against federal government now. The Supreme Court has the jurisdiction to hear. So, and this matter can come by way of first party because it's a matter of emergency. Okay, so the governor's legal team approaching the Supreme Court not by way of suing the president or suing the federal government. No.
Okay.
It is a question of interpretation of the law. And I can assure you with what I know, what I believe, and with the judicial precedents we have in this country, I don't think the Supreme Court will pronounce otherwise.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has criticized President Bola Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, describing it as political manipulation and outright bad faith. Atiku accused Tinubu of being a vested partisan actor in the ongoing political turmoil in the state, alleging that his administration either enabled or failed to prevent the crisis. His blatant refusal or calculated negligence in preventing this escalation is nothing short of disgraceful, Atiku said in a statement on Tuesday via X. He further condemned the security breaches that led to the destruction of national infrastructure in Rivers State, insisting that the responsibility lies with the president. If federal infrastructure in Rivers State has been compromised, the president bears full responsibility, he said. Punishing the people of Rivers State just to serve the political gamesmanship between the governor and Tinubu's enablers in the federal government is nothing less than an assault on democracy and must be condemned in the strongest terms, he added. Atiku also accused Tinubu of reversing the peace achieved in the Niger Delta under former President Umaru Yar'Adua, stating that his administration has thrown the region back into an era of violent unrest and instability. The former vice president called on Nigerians to reject what he termed as a political scheme, insisting that the situation in Rivers should not be used as a tool for partisan interests. Well, here we have the former vice president, Atiku, stating his own opinion and concerns on the state of emergency declaration. What are your thoughts on this report?
Yes, free speech, freedom of expression. It's a fundamental right as enshrined in our 1999 Constitution. Right. The former Vice President, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has the right as a Nigerian and also a stakeholder in this country to make comments when he feels necessary. But, in my view, I don't subscribe completely to the position of the former Vice President. In my view, the president did not act in bad faith in declaring that state of emergency. My worry is just what we had earlier discussed about his, not having power to suspend the governor and the elected officials. But otherwise, the reason for the declaration of that state of emergency is as a result of, the brewing insecurity and the bombing of oil facilities. Don't forget the Constitution gives the president powers to do that in the interest of public order and safety. So, if the president in his own wisdom, with the security report going by the proviso in subsection 5 of the 305, notwithstanding the invitation from the governor and the House of Assembly for him to come and declare the state of emergency, he can invoke section 305 sub 5 to declare him without waiting for the invitation. The law gives him the power to do that. But I still maintain he cannot suspend. That is my worry. Right. So, the former vice president, as a stakeholder in Nigeria, is within his rights to make contributions. It is not a time for instability. It is not a time for crisis. I call my brothers out there, please shield your sword. Let us resolve these issues amicably with the federal government.
Now, the former vice president rightly said that in his his view of the situation, he does not think the president handled this rightly from the beginning as regards curbing it. Right? What do you think the president would have done differently to make the aggrieved political chapters as regards the House of Assembly and the governor and everything that has been going on for the past 2 years? What different, what do you think the president would have done differently to make this, problem become a thing of the past and made us move forward as a people?
Yes, in resolving conflict, in resolving their conflicts,
okay,
it is a continuum until the aim of resolution is achieved. Okay?
Okay.
The president, in his wisdom, intervened, and there were arbitrary, directives given to both parties. Party A, do X, Y, Z. Party B, do X, Y, Z. But we heard it from the mouth of the president that both parties didn't do the arbitrary directives.
But the governor said he did. He was told to, bring back aggrieved commissioners, and he opened the channel for them to come back. He said he did what he was told to do after the consultation with the president.
Yes, but, we are in a part of the world where propaganda has become a tool to deceiving the people. But I keep urging Rivers people, I keep urging Nigerians not to be swayed by propaganda. People should do in-depth research as to what has transpired all this period. See, the president is the father of this nation. Okay? In his wisdom, he intervened, even though he does not have the constitutional powers to order the governor and the House of Assembly.
Right.
Okay? He intervened as an interested party who wants peace in a section of the country he governs. He intervened. There were agreements reached. If Party A wasn't comfortable with the content of the agreement, why didn't Party A speak out in that meeting? You agreed to the contents. You penned down your signature that you are committed to keeping this agreement. Then you return back to River State. Your body language changes. People around you say, oh, don't obey this. The president is not the courts. This is what led to all this. We are here when even some elders encouraged him to go to court. It was on air. It was never a speculation. Some said, oh, the president is not the court. He cannot determine this. Let this matter end in court. Then finally the matter ended in court. What do we expect the president to do when he intervened? Just like in our legal system, you can seek for out-of-court settlement at any point to settle. So the man made a move to settling this matter at that initial time, but parties refused. And don't forget, like I said before, in resolving conflicts, parties have openings to sit. When they meet at the first day and a conclusive decision weren't reached, there will be a reconvening time. When they reconvene, they look at the ones they have reached and the ones they have not. That is where the win-win thing comes in. In resolving conflict, it is usually not a win-lose thing.
Okay.
Because if it is win-lose, the aggrieved party may not succumb. So in resolving conflict of that nature, there should be balance of the contents of that agreement, to favor party A little and favor party B a little. That will give us a lasting peace.
Thank you so much for your insights on that report. Edo State Chapter of the All Progressive Congress APC has written to the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Blessing Agbebaku, to notify the Speaker during a plenary sitting. He said the letter personally addressed to him was titled Notification of APC Majority Status in the Edo State House of Assembly. The letter was read in part, I write to formally notify you that the APC has attained the majority status in the Edo State House of Assembly following the defection of Honorable Bright Iyamu Orionwo II from PDP to APC. Honorable Richard Edosa, representing Oredo West constituency on the platform of Labour Party, has also decamped to APC. Honorable Chief Sunday Ojezele, Essant South East constituency, decamped from PDP to APC, and Honorable Roland Akok, that the letter was sent to him from the Edo State APC Secretariat, noted that by the letter the party now has the majority of elected members in the House. He, however, wished the defectors well in their endeavors. He said he was awaiting for another letter from the party for the nomination of its principal officers. Distinguished members, you just heard of the letter that was sent to me from the APC in Edo State. So going by this letter, it means APC now has a majority in the House. I want to wish the MPs well, and I wish them good endeavors. Thank you very much. Waiting for the letter from APC for their nominees, he added. ATN recalls that the 4 lawmakers defected from their various political parties to APC last week. The defection brought about numbers of APC lawmakers in the House to 13, while PDP has 11. The House, however, adjourned plenary to April 7th, 2025. Elections are coming, lots of defections loading. What are your thoughts on this report?
Well, if House of Assembly members are defecting, they should look at the provisions of the law so as to defect within the ambit of the law.
Okay.
Let their defection crisis, a crisis relating to House of Assembly defections and all that. We just came out from one from Rivers State, and we are yet to enter another in Edo, because if your defection is not in line with the law, like the Supreme Court have pronounced, that to determine defection in Nigeria according to the law, it's simple. The defector must have satisfied the condition of the law. He has acquired a party registration card from the new political party he's defecting to. Okay. And also his name must have been imputed on that party register. Otherwise, it is not defection.
Okay.
Yes, of course. So if these House of Assembly members in Edo now have satisfied that condition of the law by getting a party registration membership card from APC,
right, and
also having their name being registered in the party register, it is in line with the provisions of the 19